Hi all. We are going to start a new presentation of the fourth gvSIG festival. In this case, we are going to speak. The presentation will be how can I get a diverse team, and it will be given by Maria Arias de Reina, who is the OSGEO president. So Maria, whenever you want.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I want to talk about something that is not specifically technical, but it has consequences over the technical things we do. So let me share the screen. So the first thing is sometimes when I give these diversity presentations, people say, okay, yeah, maybe we have a majority of white people or a majority of men in technology, but is this really a problem? Okay, well, the first thing is, of course, yes, we have here a problem because when the demography of the society around you does not reflect in your team, that means that there is some kind of wall, some kind of thing, abstract thing sometimes that prevents some people to join your team. Is this really a problem? Is it something that we should care about? Yeah, probably, because even when a big part of this discrimination is subconscious and maybe we are not aware of it and maybe we don't really care about it on the day-to-day, it's something that reflects a lot in the quality of the work we do, and it reflects a lot in the efficiency of our teams. So it is not only a social justice thing, which will be enough reason to pursue a higher diversity and inclusivity in our teams, but it is also because recent studies have shown, and not only these two I'm referring on these slides, it's a lot of studies and more are coming that shows that teams that have more diversity and more inclusivity not only are able to work more efficiently, but also are able to be more, to deliver higher quality on the things they do. So it's not only a matter of having different points of view, it's also a matter of being able to get out of your comfort zone of talking to people with different ideas, different perspectives, so they, in the end, make a final product that is better than what you could deliver if you are only working with a very homogeneous team. Let's check first a list of warning signs you should worry about if your team, to check if your team is diverse or inclusive enough. So the first thing you should check is if your team is homogeneous, if it's heterogeneous, or if it's everybody has the same cultural backgrounds, the same socioeconomic backgrounds, if they come from, they have the same religion, if they have, of course, same race, same gender, even things like what kind of hobbies they have. It's if you feel, or if you measure your team and you see that your team is homogeneous, they are all more or less the same, they have the same kind of... That means that there is some kind of barrier that is filtering a lot of people that are not entering your team. It's very suspicious and you should check why this is happening. Or maybe, yeah, you have some diversity in your team, but there is a core that is very homogeneous and is very stable. And then you have maybe people coming and going, entering your team, don't stay long and leaving your team, and then other people entering your team, stay there and leave. And you notice that the people that leave are very different from the core that is stable inside your team. That's a huge sign that your environment is probably not very comfortable for these people that are different, so they don't feel part of the team, and in the end they just leave. And notice that this is very important. A person is not diverse. They can bring diversity, they can be different, but a person is not diverse itself. It's the team who is diverse. So, for example, I as a woman, I am not diverse. If I go to if I start working in a team that is only made up of other women, I will not be improving the diversity there. If I go to a team that is more homogeneous and different from me, I may be including the diversity, I may be improving the diversity of the team, but I am not the one that is diverse. So try not to tokenize people and say, oh, this is the person who is diverse and is making us inclusive. No, it's the team who is diverse. Another warning sign you should check on your team is the evolution of the demographical statistics and the indicators. So we know that right now the numbers are bad everywhere, or almost everywhere. And we know that a team that has not worked into improving the diversity in technology probably have very bad numbers. So probably they are mostly male, probably they are mostly white. Maybe they are not mostly white in some countries that the percentage of white people is not high, but you will notice that the few white people that are there are usually part of the technology teams, and usually they are on a high position. It's difficult to find a team where they are not, a technological team where they are not mostly male and where they are not mostly white. Of course, we start on a bad position maybe, but we can evolve. And the important thing here is how we evolve, because we know from the start we are not on a good position, but we can evolve to a good position. And don't be shy on sharing your data and your indicators. For example, don't do like Oracle and Palantir did some couple of years ago. They said that they were not going to share the statistics because they were having a good strategy plan to improve the diversity. They had good numbers, and they treat them, those numbers, those statistics, as trade secrets. And they said they didn't want to share their statistics about gender diversity because they were very good, and if the rest of the industry realized they were very good at this, they will steal their engineers. Well, first, if they can steal their engineers, then maybe you are doing something wrong. But second, when finally they reveal their statistics, we discovered that this hasn't been true. The problem was from the beginning that they had bad numbers, they were ashamed of them, and they didn't want to share. So please, don't be afraid of sharing the data, because in the end, we know no company starts from a good position, no company starts 50-50 male-female, no company starts with a lot of diversity in cultural, religion, socioeconomic classes. The thing is, we want to move towards a more inclusive team. It doesn't matter if right now you are not an inclusive team. The important thing is how you want to evolve. Also, the statistics, they are important, that they not only check the general statistics of the company, but also the distribution across levels, because one thing that happens a lot is that women don't get enough push on upper positions, and they remain very junior compared to their male peers with the same experience who are pushed up. So if you have maybe a good percentage of women in your company or people of color in your company, and then you realize that they are in the junior levels while the white males are in the upper positions, that's also a warning sign of something not working right in your company. And also, when you compare these across levels, do it right. I mean, for example, Google has right now pending a couple of trials because some women have get them to court because they said that women are paid less in Google. So Google just published some statistics about how much they pay to their employees. And a lot of media reproduced a piece of news that are copy-paste. I don't know who wrote it in the beginning, but it's very funny because they say, no, the statistics says that in fact we pay women more because the bonus they get are higher. But that's not what the trials are trying to check if it's true or not. What the trials are trying to prove is it looks like when Google hire women, instead of offering them the level, the position they should be being offered according to their experience, they offered a lower level. And then they say, okay, but don't worry, because we are going to give you a bonus, so you will be having the same salary as your peers with the same experience. And then what they don't say is that those peers will have also a bonus, maybe not that high, but then they will be again above what those women should be earning. So not only they are putting women on a lower level, so you have less responsibility, you have less position, less power, but also you give them a lot of bonus, and then you're happy because you are giving women more bonus. No, that's not the way to fix this. The way to fix this is putting everyone on the level they should be, and then compare bonuses and salaries. So you not only have to compare your whole company, but also compare across levels, compare that everybody is on the level they should be, and that the salaries are and bonuses and all the benefits are comparable between peers with the same experience. And well, compare per level, and make sure that these statistics are published, and you ask for help, and you create a plan on how to improve this. This is a short, quick way of checking if you have a problem with your gender gap in IT. So these are specific gender gap statistics, because this warning signs should be extrapolated for the rest of the demography. But then, as each country has a different percentage of people of color, each color, how much percentage they have of gender minorities, it's difficult to say a concrete percentage that applies to everyone. But in the case of gender gap, as women are everywhere, more or less half of the population, it's very easy to have some common signs that you can quickly check. For example, if you're a small company, less than 10 people, and you have no women in your team, okay, if you have 5, 10, 20, you should have some women already in your company. Don't think that because you are small, you shouldn't have women. If you don't have any women in your company, or you have only one woman, which is your token, and you place everywhere saying, hey, we are diverse, we are inclusive, because we have one woman, that's a very bad sign. If you're a medium company and you have less than 30% of women in your team, then that means that you are also doing something wrong, because 30% is more or less the percentage of women that studied something related to technical software, engineering careers. So if you have less than that, that means that you have less than what the demography should show. And if you're a big company, you should have more than that 30%, because a big company really have the means to do something about diversity, and maybe train women that didn't have explicitly study a technological career, or train women that comes from similar backgrounds but not specifically the technological side. So that's more or less some very quick checks you can do on your company to know if you have a diversity problem. And of course, this all can be extrapolated to other underrepresented groups, because you just have to take the percentage of the population you have in the countries you operate on, the regions you operate, and you can extrapolate the same thing. If there is a 40-60% of people of color in your region, then you should have the same percentage more or less in your team. If not, then probably there is some barrier, there is some prejudice, there is something that is making them not get into your company. And this is important, not only on IT. So once you have these warning signs, some companies, what they do is say, okay, I have a lot of commercial sales women, I have a lot of women hired for design, I have a lot of women hired for administrative purposes. But that's not the thing. You should do these statistics on the technological part where there is the big gender gap. Hiring women in other areas may help improving the environment, making it more inclusive, but does not fix the problem. So how can you fix this problem? The first thing you have to get very clear is that you have to invest on diversity. This is not just saying, okay, I have the goodwill of improving the diversity in my team or in my company. This is not only I want to be more friendly to gender minorities, more friendly to people of color, more friendly to... No, this is not only a matter of saying this, but doing specific steps to fix this. What things can you do? Well, the first thing is train your human resources. If you are an open source project, probably you don't have human resources. But if you're a company, you can train your human resources specifically for diversity problems, diversity issues. It's really important because there are a lot of things that can be done, improving the interview processes, improving how you do the annual follow-up on the employees, how you make even internal communications that will make your company more inclusive or more friendly to inclusivity. So if you don't train your human resources, if you don't really if you don't really explore how can you improve this, you can't really know. I mean, this is something that has been studied, that has been proved. You need to check what others have already done. It's not just a matter of using your imagination and thinking, oh, I'm going to put some, I don't know, some companies just create some pink something group where women can join. Well, maybe that helps in some context, but did you really check that this helps? And if you don't have human resources, or because you are maybe a small company, or you don't have, or you are an open source community and don't have a human resource as is that can be trained on all this diversity stuff, well, you can always make an audit, hire a consultant, ask for help to someone that is specialized on this, so they can point you how to improve your environment, how you can approach people to make them join your team, even if you don't have human resources. An external audit is always helpful because it's someone coming from the outside checking your day-to-day way of working, your workflows, your way of interacting with people, and that is always helpful because you may be doing things that you think are, well, that's company culture, that's day-to-day normal, you have normalized things, and someone from the outside can check, okay, this is not really normal, this is not really how it should be. If you are not for profit, or if you are an open source community, or if you just not for profit, you don't have money to hire a consultant, you don't have money to train your human resources or whatever, then please ask your nearest feminist organization, from people of color, women in engineering, anything. Ask for another non-for-profit organization, because we are here to help. I mean, of course, this comes at cost. Remember, I'm not going to be able to work full-time for your team if I don't get any salary from some other source. I can do that for free, but I can at least point you, help you, make sure that the basic stuff are done. And when I say me, I don't mean me personally, but all feminist organizations around you. They are everywhere in the world, and they can help you, train you a bit how to treat this problem. Well, it's very difficult to give some tips on how to improve this unless you really study each case by case. It's also difficult to give some general rules, but there are some things that are so basic that at least I can point you, and you can check if you already have that in your team, in your organization, and you can check if you already are doing things to improve this. And well, of course, some of these things are specific for women, some not. I'm going to start by the general one. But as I said, all the things that I say for women can be extrapolated to any other underrepresented group. You just have to do the math of saying, okay, if the statistics on my region is this, then I have to, maybe instead of a half, it should be a third, or it should be 2/3, depending on what are you going to do. So the first thing you should have in your organization is a code of conduct. It may look very stupid, and for people that have never had a problem, they even think it's annoying to have a code of conduct, like, oh, do I have to follow now some weird rules? No, this is not weird rules. This is just having somewhere written that some specific behaviors are not right. That if you are making someone uncomfortable, that's not fine, that's not good. You may think this is a joke, but for me, maybe it's not a joke. You may think this is a stupid comment you have done, but for other people, that may be a really incisive comment that they don't feel welcome. So the first thing is have a code of conduct. In the best case, you will never have to do anything regarding that code of conduct, but if someone just crossed some red line, it's good to have those red lines explicitly stated, so no one can say, oh, I didn't know, I couldn't do this. And a code of conduct is wet paper if you cannot really enforce this. So do you have a safe workflow? So in case there is a problem, people know where to report it, and do they know that this is going to be treated on a right way? I mean, if the only way of reporting a problem with the code of conduct is going to the to one person and talk to them on a public space, that's an issue. If there is no clear workflow or what is going to happen once you report, you may fear that the consequences will be worse than not reporting it. So please, in the code of conduct, describe or attached to the code of conduct, have some step-by-step workflow of what is going to happen once you report and what can you expect from that. In the best case, you're not going to use this ever, but just leave it there just in case there is something you just don't see, or you didn't notice, or you didn't know that is happening. Just leave it there. In the best case, you're not going to use it, and if you need to use it, then it's good that it was there. Do you have a diversity strategy plan? So, okay, you have done your statistics, you have checked that maybe you are lacking women, maybe you are lacking people of color, maybe you are lacking whatever. You notice that there is an imbalance between the demographic of the society you lived in and your team. What is your plan to fix this? do have a plan. What are the steps you are going to do to fix this? You need some plan. Just saying, okay, I have this problem, I want to fix this. Let's just sit here with a cup of tea and see if this fix by itself, it's not going to work. You need some plan, you need some strategy. And for this, it's very useful to have this training and this auditing from someone that has studied what to do. If you are going to introduce people from diverse environments to increase the diversity in your team, try to be agile and don't get them stuck with a single team. So I'm not saying that you should move them from team to team so they don't feel like they belong anywhere, but make sure all the company or a big part of the company interacts with them, so not only they feel welcomed and like if they belong there, but also that if they have a problem with the team where they just arrived, they have some people they can discuss and they can see if that bad behavior that is maybe making them feel uncomfortable, if that replicates in the rest of the teams, in the rest of the organization, or if it is just something localized on that team. So they can also make friends outside the team. So if they have any problem, they can go to those friends and make sure they have some external help. So that's one tip that can help a lot. Also make sure the evolution is fair, because if you do a lot of effort in hiring people and then you don't follow up, you don't care if they stay junior or if they go up in the organization, you are not taking care, you're not following if they have a good welcome and a good interaction with the rest of the team, then that's no use. That's why in some teams you have an homogeneous, solid part that stays there, and then the heterogeneous part that is coming and going, because the evolution is not fair. Specifically for gender gap, and remember that this can be extrapolated to other underrepresented minorities. Go remote. I know this is still not specific, sorry. Some other tips: go remote. This may sound quite unrelated to all this diversity thing, but it's very related because it allows flexibility, especially for physically challenged persons, because we are talking here about all kinds of diversity. If you don't have an office that is adapted, that's a huge barrier for some people to work in your team. So if you allow to work remotely, you are also opening your position to all these people that may not be able to go physically to your office. Or maybe they need some special environment where to work in, and you just don't have their office prepared for that. Or some people just can't work in big offices with a lot of noise because they can't concentrate. They need to work on a specific environment. So going remote allows you to open your possibilities to hire other people. Also, going remote allows family conciliation. In some countries, this is really important. Sometimes from the European perspective, at least it happens to me, you forget that in some countries, women are not really, are the ones that are going to take care of old people, of children, of anyone that is dependent somehow. So if you don't allow this kind of flexibility, they just can't work because they have to stay at home. So allowing going remote allows you to improve the diversity in your team, because again, you're opening the possibilities of who you can hire. Use inclusive language. This is, I know this is very polemic, but the thing is, it works. I mean, sometimes you just read a job offer and just for the wording, you're not going to join that company because maybe they are very bro here, bro there. Maybe they are very, you just don't feel like you are the one they are looking for. If you use inclusive language, it's easier that some people will read your job offer and they will say, I am the one who fits there, because we are talking about technology. We are not talking about culture. We are not talking about, for example, if you say, oh, we like to go for a beer after work. Well, if for people that can't drink beer because religion, because health problems, because whatever, that's a very no-go, a huge no-go for going to that job offer. And if you can, please give voice to the underrepresented groups, because that helps a lot. First, in normalizing them. You are normalizing their presence everywhere. You are making everyone in your team used to hear other voices, but also note that usually underrepresented groups have less representation also when in conferences, in maybe in blog posts, maybe even in a meeting. In a meeting, you can notice the amount of time white males talk compared with the rest. It's very different. If you explicitly give voice to them, to the underrepresented groups, then you are balancing that. There are some, I didn't link here, but there are some studies recently on, for example, the amount of time each politician in USA cameras were talking and how many times they were interrupted and things like that. And you notice that males speak more. That's the thing. While the rest were interrupted, they were given less time to talk, etc. So not only normalize the person, but also balance this subconscious thing that makes us speak less. And now the specific gender gap, you can always extrapolate. On a similar candidate, hire the woman. This may sound like, oh, quotas, you are discriminating men. No, this is not the thing. The thing is, there are several studies. I'm linking there the most relevant one, or the first one that raises the voice, but there are many more, that shows that on all the job processes to get a job, usually the women are less valued and are offered less salary than their males counterparts, even when the experience is the same. For example, this study, what they did was sending the same CV with exactly the same experience and the same everything, just changing the name from a man name to a woman's name, and they send it to many people and say, okay, do you think this candidate will fit in this job position, and how much money would you offer? And well, you can compare that they evaluated the women worse, even when it was exactly the same CV, and they offered less salary ranges. Also, there's another study that showed that they recorded several videos with a man and a woman doing exactly the same presentations and doing the same presentation with different approaches, like making more jokes, being more serious, being more trying to connect more with the audience or not. And the woman was always evaluated worse, even when it was the same words, the same expressions, the same. I mean, they hire good actors to make sure they were similar. So when you have two similar candidates and you hire the woman, you are just, again, balancing this, because probably subconsciously you are just putting the woman down. So if they look similar and you already put the woman on a worst evaluation, it's because she is up. If you want to break a very homogeneous team, don't start by hiring a junior woman. Why? Because a junior woman will be very misplaced there. She won't have the experience to deal with all this. She won't have all the necessary skills to deal with a hard, non-welcoming environment. So don't try hiring a junior woman, just hire a pair, a senior woman with a junior woman, if you can, of course. If not, try directly with a senior woman. Why this? Because when you hire by pairs, not only they are going to be already helping each other, but also the senior can mentor the junior and the senior can see if the evolution of the junior is fair or not. But before you hire anyone, before you start hiring anyone, just make sure your team is safe. And when by safe, I mean welcoming, friendly. You have the code of conduct, you have the workflow, safe workflow to report any code of conduct reports issues. You have the strategy diversity plan. You have all this before you start introducing people. Because if you hire someone before you make the team a very welcome, inclusive place, what will happen is that they will burn out and leave. And some other tips on closing the gender gap. One thing that happens a lot to women is that we are being pushed to the management track. That means that we usually are raised to be very motherly, make sure everyone is safe, is good, is doing what they want, that they are being treated fairly, and that pushes us, even if we don't notice, to the management track. So don't push women to the management track unless they ask for it. If they started being a developer or a technician in any other sysadmin or whatever, and they want to follow that career, don't push them to the management track. Do you have any former women employee? Just ask for feedback, because they are the ones that have experienced better how is your environment, what are the problems, what are the possible solutions. Please ask for feedback, because they are the ones that can guide you better if you cannot directly hire someone that can help you train your diversity human resources team. And some final conclusions. As a summary, soft diversity and inclusivity, you have to invest. This is an invest. This is not only a goodwill saying, okay, I want to fix this. This is something you have to really work towards it. You have to have some plans and make them real. But don't worry about investing, because it has a big ROI. It was a big return of investment. Latest studies, I think it says that between 30 and 40% of return of investment in diversity. I mean, not return of investment. The companies that were more inclusive and have more diversity, they have between a 30 and a 40% more of benefits per year than the other companies. So this is really something that you should do, because your teams will be more productive, will deliver things with more quality, and will work more productively. So this is something you should really do, even if you don't care about social justice, even if you don't care about your environment around you. If you only care about money, it's still a good investment to do. And of course, ask for advice, training, don't assume anything. We have a lot of subconscious bias, we have a lot of subconscious prejudice. Please look for advice, look for information, train, and then you will be able to be better on this. And just one last thing, we just created this network of women. So if there is any women here in GeoSpatial hearing me, please join us, because we are getting really big. It has been only 3 weeks since we started, and we are already having hundreds of women interested in this and joining in our Slack and joining in our mailing list. And I think this can help a lot in improving diversity and expanding the network of women that can help improving diversity in teams. That's it. I don't know if there is any question.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, the chat is open, but at this moment there is any question. If anybody wants to want to ask anything about the presentation, you can ask it at the chat. We're going to wait a few minutes, and if there isn't any question, you also can ask later, because the video will be available at the gvSIG YouTube channel, and also at the 4th gvSIG Festival website. So you have the details, Maria details. So if you see if you watch the video later, you can ask later directly to Maria. I think there isn't any presentation, any questions, sorry. So we can wait a few seconds, and if there is anyone, we will finish the presentation here. So I think we can finish here. Maria, thank you very much. Are you listening to me? I think there's a problem with the sound. Now, Maria, I think when you have finished sharing desktop, yes, so I can't hear you. I think there's a problem with the noise. So there isn't any question, so we can finish here. Thank you. Thank you, Maria, and thank you all the participants. And Maria, I think the problem is still happening. Okay, so see you at the next presentation given by Maria in Spanish. In a few minutes, we will start the last presentation of the 4th gvSIG Festival, the same presentation but in Spanish. Thank you very much.